This weekend brought us 3 hours of AEW goodness on Saturday, where Rampage was on first, followed by 2 hours of Collision. So while the rest of the team is out watching some other pay-per-view, the plebeian perspective, we're going to give you all the good AEW tidbits. So the first hour of this week's AEW 3-hour marathon, which, by the way, is brought to you by Woo Energy, brought us Hook versus Rocky Azúcar Romero. This match was a good match. It was a very good starting match, too. It did set the pace for the night, I felt. You had a lot of great moves on both sides, both wrestlers really giving it all. Hook ends up with the win, locking in that red rum at the very end. The next match of the night brought us Chris Statlander against Diamante. And the match was going actually really good. I'm really surprised with coming back from surgery and the amount of injuries that Chris Statlander has had, how fast and mobile she is. The match was even until Mercedes Martinez came to the ringside and started casting distraction upon Chris Statlander. It didn't work for that long though, and in the end, Chris got a nice clean clothesline and a 1-2-3 pin. But then Mercedes jumped in, and Diamante and Mercedes both started to beat on Chris Statlander. Who came in for the save? None other than Willow Nightingale! I'm interested to see if this does set up a tag team between Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale, especially now that Chris Statlander has lost her title. Next, we had the Kingdom, Mike Benet and Matt Taven. Next strong, baby, next strong. They came out and smashed Duke Davis and Danny Jones. The real interesting spot of this match was the Kingdom calling out MJF and Adam for their ROH championship titles. Does this call out mean that we're going to see who has been impersonating MJF with the devil mask soon? I mean, my money has been on the Kingdom all along, but we'll see if that transpires. Next, we got to the main event, which was Katsuyori Shibata versus Wheeler Yuta for the ROH Pure Championship. And because it was for the Pure Championship, this match did follow Pure rules. The match was a good match, and Shibata was dominant for most of the match. Then, at the end, Wheeler Yuta engaged in some shenanigans, pushing the ref over, and then low blowing on Shibata. When the ref came around, Shibata was down, Wheeler was on top, and Wheeler got the 1-2-3, making him your new ROH Pure Champion. The match was a good match, not a lot of high flying, a lot of great technical work, a lot of unbelievable chops. Holy, ow man, just thinking about them hurts my chest. I am kind of disappointed in the end though, and the way that we are taking Wheeler Yuta, because much like when Wheeler is tag teamed with the rest of the BCC, Wheeler was getting just beat on the entire match. And we know that he's a better wrestler. Just let him wrestle. And now, we're going to have Alice come in and talk about the first few matches of Collision.
All right, so this Collision opened up with a fight from the bracket for our competition, right? That's what we call it. Sure, why not? We've got Daniel Garcia versus Castagnoli! That's the only way I can remember his name. So, the announcers, good job. That's how I know who they are. That's the rules. All right, so this fight was pretty much, you knew who was going to win it from the get-go, but I did like that it was kind of stretched out. You were like, oh my gosh, is Garcia going to win or is Castagnoli going to win? Oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen. And I loved that they stretched it out. They brought it out of the ring, brought it down, you know. Then it looked like Garcia had the upper hand, right? Took Castagnoli right into Barricade. And then Castagnoli was like, just kidding, I got you. Held him by the legs and swung him into the barricade. And then brought him back into the ring for the win. right? Again, we kind of knew that he was going to win this one, especially coming fresh off from a loss to MJF. Yeah, I don't know. It was obvious to me. But still, good storytelling, good fighting. Overall, I think it was a good opener. At first, I thought it was a little slow, but then I changed my mind. Both wrestlers, in my opinion, put on a good show. Next match, we got Luchasaurus, who has been rebranded by Christian Cage to be Kill Switch. And he was fighting the boys, which was a squash match, right? He came out, wrecked him. Woo! But then, surprise! The R-rated Aaron Copeland came out and just wrecked Kill Switch. Like, brutal takedown. And then we were really playing the unhinged father, right, from Aaron Copeland and Christian Cage. We're really pushing that angle, which honestly, I'm a fan. It's kind of fun. I dig it. Next, third match, we had a tag team match for the House of Black. Malachi and Buddy versus Commander and Gravity. This one I thought was really fun. The Luchadors really put on a good show. They had a lot of fun acrobatic stuff. Again, I thought we could kind of see the writing on the wall in this one. They came out and you're like, oh, I know who's going to win. But I love that, made it take longer. They did have the balance, the push and pull. Ooh, who's going to win? Was it Gravity? Maybe it was Commander. Adolfo will know. But he did this cool move where he literally ran on the ropes and then launched himself and landed on both the House of Black members. Incredible feat, really, to behold. But yes, ultimately, the House of Black did win the pin there, with Malachi sitting cross-legged in the center of the ring, sort of luring them into this false sense of security, and Buddy, bam, coming out of nowhere for the finish. All right, and then I believe this is the final match that I am reviewing. We had Julia Hart versus Lady Frost. And I thought for a very moment, right, because Lady Frost was a native of the city that they were filming in, that Lady Frost might take it. But how could they do that to Julia Hart? She just won the belt, and the belt was on the line. Who's gonna win? Don't know. I thought this was a nice match. I do think I've seen better fighting from Julia Hart. We didn't get to see her do her signature moves. Yes, she did win with her signature, what is it when they tap out? The tap out move. Ooh, they give up. But I did love she's pulling out the chair. She looks like she's going to go with the chair. Oh no, it's just a prop, right? She looks like she's going to go for the chair, and the referee's like, don't do it, no! And she's like, oh, it's just a prop. But Lady Frost did pull out an attempted moonsault, but she missed. Anyway, so yes, and it ended up Julia Hart was the winner. This was a good match for me. Of these four, I think my favorite would have to be the tag team match. So that's the winner for me. All right, I'm going to call Adolfo, the nerdy Puerto Rican, back so he can finish out this review. Hot tag!
I'm back. All right, next match, we had FTR versus The Righteous. It was a good match. I always forget how good FTR are technically. And The Righteous is actually really good as well. This This was the first time that I have seen the Righteous wrestle. I've seen them in some spots before. Other than the ladder match. Wait, were they in the ladder match? No, they weren't in that ladder match. But FTR was. The match was a good match. FTR does end up winning. And then we had some shenanigans by the House of Black, Malachi and Buddy. They appeared in the audience, talked some smack to FTR, and then disappeared. Of course, all doing their spooky lights going out trick. I personally love spooky wrestling. I love goofy wrestling. I want to see more of it. If they do a whole thing where House of Black is taking over Collision, I'm down for that. Let's bring back those types of 80s storylines. The next match was Keith Lee versus Lee Moriarty. And yes, it was as confusing as that billing makes it, because there was a point where people were chanting for Lee, and Keith Lee looked at the audience and was like, me, him, me, him, me, him. It was also a good match. I always forget how mobile Keith Lee is for such a big guy. But him and Lee Moriarty, they got into it. A lot of big, high karate kicks in this match, which was really cool. Keith Lee ends up getting your W. Clean W. It was a good match. And finally, the match of the night. Brody King versus Eddie Kingston in the first bracket for the Continental Classic. Wow, that was a fantastic match. I'm going to say for the 3 hours of programming that there was, this is my favorite match. Both Brody and Eddie got after it. Vicious chops, vicious slams, but it was all a high-paced, not a lot of where you get one guy in the corner and kind of wear him out. Brody King ends up with the win. He ends up with a clean win right at the last second. So what did I think of the 3 hours? Well, Rampage was definitely by far the better wrestling of the night, in my humble plebeian opinion. Collision was a little The matches were good. It's just all the little spots in between, to me, felt like slowed the pacing down. And if we could have just had the matches and cut some of those promos, I think the show would have been a lot better. So that's it. I am Adolfo the Nerdy Puerto Rican. This has been your plebeian perspective for the AEW Wrestling for the weekend of November 25th. And remember, I'm Biconic. You're Biconic. We are all Biconic.